In this episode of GitHub Copilot CLI for beginners, we're going to explore MCP, or Model Context Protocol, which is an open API standard that will allow agents to perform even more tasks beyond just writing code. There's more to writing code than just writing code. Beyond things like building and running tests, there's issues to manage, PRs to create, databases to interact with, just to name a few. Since agents have an ability to act autonomously, it'd be wonderful if we could grant them access to these types of resources. And this is where MCP, or Model Context Protocol, comes into play. MCP is an open AI standard to allow AI agents to interact with them. Through MCP, organizations can expose documentation, assets, and functionality to enhance an AI agent's capabilities. One great example of this is an MCP server that's already built into GitHub Copilot CLI, the GitHub MCP server. Through this server, you can access both documentation and assets on GitHub, like issues and pull requests. I want to explore a couple of my favorites, Playwright and Svelte, to highlight how to manage MCP servers and some of their functionality. To add an MCP server in Copilot CLI, you use the /mcp command. The interface will prompt you then to add in a brand new MCP server, where it will ask you to provide a name and the details on how to start that MCP server. The two core methods for accessing a server is either having it run locally, typically through Node using npx, or remote hosted with a URL. You can check the documentation of the MCP server you wish to use to determine what details to provide. To add Playwright, we'll start by providing the name. The Playwright MCP server is local, so we'll leave that option as the default, then provide the npx command to start it, which I copied from the documentation. To add Svelte, it's the same process, but this time we'll specify HTTP, since it's a remote server, and provide the URL for that remote server. Again, I pulled that from the documentation. Let's explore each one of these in action, starting with Playwright. Playwright is an end-to-end testing framework for web applications. The Playwright MCP server allows an AI agent to use Playwright to interact with a web app. Using the MCP server, you can validate functionality. I'll send a prompt to tell Copilot to look for functionality for filtering in the app. In my case here, I'm being explicit in telling Copilot to use the MCP server. This isn't required, but I have a basic philosophy when using any AI assistant. If there's something I want to make sure it does, or that it might need to know, I'll just always tell it. And we can see Copilot then using the MCP server in action. It looks through the site, interacts with it, and confirms that the filter functionality exists and behaves as a user would expect it to. Now, turning our attention to the Svelte MCP server, and if you're not already familiar with Svelte, it's my personal favorite front-end web framework, and the Svelte MCP server exposes documentation and a really nice feature to review an app for best practices, which is exactly what I want to do. Again, just like before, I send the prompt and I tell it to use Svelte. Copilot uses the MCP server to look through the app, and in this case, it found a small issue with indexing on a generated list. I ask Copilot to make the update, and away it goes. Within just a couple of minutes, I've got my issues resolved. Well, at least my code issues. Through MCP, you can enhance the capabilities of Copilot CLI. You can access external documentation, ensuring Copilot is always up to date on what it needs to know, and external resources to perform actions on your behalf. This makes for a more powerful AI coding assistant.